Why should I look through a telescope? So you can see where the hell you got born.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Oh yeah, baby John Dobson.
John Lowry Dobson. That's a hell of a quote, isn't it?
He's the inventor of the Dobson telescope. Dobsonian telescope.
That is not too shabby a claim to fame, is it?
Well, a lot of amateur observers use the Dobsonian because it's so convenient and so easy to use.
Bloody amateurs. We're not amateurs, are we?
No, he was a great advocate. Died quite recently, 2014, but was born on September the 14th, 1915.
Ooh.
So he almost made it to his 100th birthday.
Well, I would like to doff my cap. Thank you, John.
Yes, happy birthday wherever
Matt, it was your birthday recently. Can you tell us how it was? Happy birthday.
Oh, my birthday, I didn't do anything, Jamie, other than work.
Yeah, that's not cool.
No, and then having to get up really early to fly to Latvia, where I've had an amazing time. And that's where I am right now.
So that's your special birthday gift is Latvia. How is Latvia, Matt?
It's a beautiful, beautiful city with lots of very friendly people.
This is quite a long distance podcast we're doing today, aren't we? Because I'm in Seattle, just arrived in Seattle, and Matt is in Latvia. People need their space news. It doesn't stop us, does it?
No, you're in the home of grunge.
We will be singing out with a Nirvana or a Mudhoney or a Tad or a Soundgarden. You choose, Matt, and I'll croon it.
You'll just have to do Soundgarden.
Tick.
All
right, so let's talk about Luna 2.
60th anniversary, 13th of September, 1959, Luna 2.
Oh, it was a good year.
Well, it's the first thing ever to hit another world.
It's an incredible thing.
Yeah, it's quite in. You know, I'm looking at the picture of this like metal ball that was part of the cargo of Luna 2, and just before it hit the surface, these two balls would explode and send all these tiny little pennants, which had these Russian CCCP written on them and a few other things and the date and stuff, and it would shower it across the moon's surface so that there's these little, almost like memorabilia all over the surface. But I was looking at it and was thinking, I wonder if it's like a buckyball where there's hexagons and pentagons, but the whole ball seems to be made of just pentagons.
It really does. It looks like it looks like a robot's football.
It isn't a football because it's all pentagons rather than a mix.
I quite like it. I might get one.
But the good thing about Luna 2, did a bit of science just before it hit and found that there was no magnetic field at the moon and no evidence of radiation belts.
Well, thank God. I mean, it's already bloody hard to get to the moon, Matt, but we don't need more radiation belts.
Could have done with a magnetic field, though.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so it's a win and a lose type situation there.
Talking of winners and losers, Matt, Shall we go through the week's news?
Yeah, let's do some week's news.
Mooncrete,
yeah. We talked about we're talking about radiation and trying to shield ourselves from radiation. Well, the best way to do that is to build your moon buildings with some nice concrete.
Yes.
Recently on the ISS, Alexander Gerst, for example, was doing some experiments mixing essentially concrete, in these bags on the ISS to see how it would set in microgravity.
Okay.
So there's a paper that's just been released by Juliana Neves from the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the Pennsylvania State University.
Ah, yes.
Called Microgravity Effect on Microstructural Development of Tricalcium Silicate Paste.
Please do not use this paper as pornography.
Yeah, if you're really into types of concrete, this is really going to do it for you. What they've realised, and it's kind of obvious, but basically when there's only microgravity, you're not going to get things like sedimentation, any buoyancy forces, which is quite interesting, isn't it? So bubbles don't.
That's true.
Bubbles don't go up. They don't do anything, and there's no convection either. Like, heat rises. Well, not when there's no gravity. It doesn't. So there's no convection, and so yes, it sets really differently. So, for example, it sets more uniformly because it's not sedimenting, and it's not. There's no buoyancy forces pushing up bubbles. And it's less dense as well. So there's lots of other different things. So obviously they've been able to look at that. But it's like, imagine you have to completely know what you're doing when you're making concrete, when it's going to be critical concrete making time when you're on the moon. So you've got to get it just right.
Yes.
So,
I think you'd probably have to take some kind of course.
No, exactly. But this is like a first step in trying to work out what the hell the notes and course notes are going to be on making concrete.
It's so exciting, isn't it? If you think about it, it's we want to start building a new world. Where do you start? And this is the first kind of material test, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's no point building very expensive buildings at great expense and then finding out that it all crumbles away. I mean, it's bad enough. Like with buildings on Earth where you haven't particularly done a good concrete mix and it's cracked and all the water gets in. When it's even worse if it's...
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. So this is what Alexandra Radinska, who's also of the Pennsylvania State University, who's one of the co-authors of the paper, she said, we confirmed the hypothesis that this can be done. Now we can take next steps to find binders that are specific for space and variable levels of gravity from 0G to Mars G and in between. So what she's saying is, you not only have to do it for the ISS, you've got to do this for the moon gravity, you've got to do it for Mars gravity, and maybe there's a way of being able to kind of do it so you've got this sliding scale of concrete making skills.
One place at a time, though, I think. Alexandra first.
Yeah,
that told her, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I hope she's really listening to your advice there, Jamie. It's very good advice.
I think, it's very sensible of me. My mother would be proud.
So, Jamie, did you hear about C/2019 Q4 Borisov?
Did I? I'll tell you what, this is exciting. Named after Gennady Borisov, who discovered the comet from his observatory in Crimea, Matt.
I know.
And he makes his own telescopes, a bit like Dobson. What a ledge.
But the exciting bit about this is it another interstellar visitor?
Dun, dun, dun.
They've looked at this comet's trajectory, and it looks as if it's from outside of the solar system. So it's a bit like Oumuamua. But this time we've caught it really early. So its perihelion isn't till December when it gets closest to the sun. So we've got loads of time to watch as it makes its way through the solar system and back out again. How cool is that?
Are there any photos yet?
Well, imagine the photos, if there are some, will be just a white dot going across a very grey screen, or a black dot going across a very grainy white screen. That's what they normally are.
And who doesn't want to look at that?
The general public, Jamie, the general public.
Oh, yes.
But as soon as we get some artists' impressions from NASA, I'm going to be sure to put them up.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, Jamie, you love the next story, don't you?
I'm already aching. For the first time, astronomers have found water vapour, yes, water vapour in the atmosphere of the habitable zone, 8th Earth mass planet. This is K2-18b, according to a paper by the one and only Angelos Tsaras. I hope I pronounced that right. Tsaras?
Tiara.
I mean,
Tiara.
This is exciting, Matt, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, man, this is really exciting. So, yeah, in a paper in Nature, it's the first time water vapour's been seen in a habitable zone planet. I mean, admittedly, this planet's pretty massive because it's 8 times the mass of the Earth. So, of course,
Oh, it's huge.
It's going to be pretty different place, but it's still habitable, I would imagine. So that is super exciting. It's around an M dwarf star. So as we've discussed this loads of times, M dwarfs are one of the most common star types there are, and they're little red dwarfs that they're a little bit angry. They sometimes have lots of bursts, so they're a little bit unstable. So it's not that great that you have to, in a very close orbit to them, be exposed to these blasts of solar energy all the time.
You wouldn't want to get too close.
No. So there's a lot of debate about whether they're a good thing or a bad thing for habitable worlds, but it looks like, at least, that this planet's got water vapour. They've managed to see it using spectroscopy. Well, they're pretty convinced that it does.
Oh, it's super exciting. It means I can dream about other places than Europa.
Yeah, and it's not that far away. It's only 34 parsecs away from the Earth.
You sounded like a dad who was saying, well, like a kid's complaining about a long drive of a few hours, and you're like, it's not that far.
Yeah. How far have we gone?
How long would it take me, Matt, if I set off now in a rocket? How long would it take me?
You would never get there.
Well, it's very half glass empty of you, Matthew.
I'm going to rephrase. In a chemical rocket, you'll never get there.
Yeah, but you don't know what material I'm using. This is new stuff. I'm travelling on a light sail with plasma lasers.
Well, yeah, you might be able to build a spacecraft that is driven with laser propulsion and get up to a decent speed and get there in 80 years or something. But even that.
Oh, perfect. I'll leave now.
What you actually need to do is build.
I'll be 120.
Is build like some form of antimatter drive or a Kerbal Blitz drive, where you get a black hole in the centre of your spacecraft and feed off the Hawking radiation.
Don't doubt my inventions. I mean, remember that time I made an apple shape ball from opal fruits and nearly choked to death.
Yeah, I do.
So this will be a piece of piss.
Building an interstellar spacecraft is slightly different from a sweet invention in the school playground, Jamie. As I've tried to
not that much. I mean, how hard can it be?
And Jamie, I've got to move on. I've got to move on to meerkat bubbles.
What the hell are meerkat bubbles? I mean, are you drunk or what?
There's a really sensitive telescope in South Africa that's just it's come online in the last year, and it's apparently really, really successful and works completely well out straight off. Normally these observatories take ages to get up and running, but it's been really successful so far. So a team of scientists from Oxford University and Cape Town have been able to tease out from this massive glare, X-ray glare. Imagine like the X-rays coming from the centre of our own galaxy are just so bright. It's like looking into a very bright, bright light bulb and trying to see a faint signal from something else. Well, they've managed to use, a great deal of data and managed to see a new structure that's coming out of the centre of the Milky Way.
Wow.
Not to be confused with the Fermi bubbles.
No.
So the Fermi bubbles we've talked about before, which is massive, absolutely huge hourglass kind of X-ray structure that's flowing up and down at a right angle to the galactic disk. But it's pretty similar. It's not as big, but it's obviously from some cataclysmic event that happened millions of years ago. So it's really exciting that they can see this huge bubble.
So, Matt, our Milky Way is considered to be relatively quiescent galaxy.
It's a quiescent galaxy, but you've got to remember we've got a 4 million solar mass black hole at the centre. So occasionally...
How could I forget?
Occasionally, that will do stuff that has pretty enormous power.
It's enormous responsibility.
Yeah, it's either gobbling up like a huge load of dust or gas or maybe a couple of stars, or it could be that it's not a black hole at all, that there's a starburst event going on, which is when there's hundreds of stars that come into formation and blow up almost straight away, which might coincide with a starburst event that the astronomers know that happened about 7 million years ago. So it might be related to that.
It's not even that long in space terms.
No, well, it's not at all. It's not at all. You certainly wouldn't want it happening nearby. So just to recap, this is a bipolar bubble structure with an overall span of 140 parsecs by 430 parsecs. So if you can imagine, that's about 500,000 times bigger than the solar system.
God damn.
So it's a very, very big structure. And that extends above and below the galactic plane and has a total energy of 7 times 10 to the 52 ergs. That's 7 with 52 zeros at the end of it.
You've gone all Back to the Future again, just talking like Professor Emmett Brown.
The people in the paper reckon that it might be the event that caused the major increase in cosmic ray density in the galactic center. So it might be...
Really?
Yeah. And therefore might be the principal source of relativistic particles required to power the synchrotron emission of the radio filaments within and in the vicinity of the bubble cavities. Get that for a sentence. So,
I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a sentence. I'll tell you a story that I'd like you to tell me a bit more of, please, and that's old Bigelow.
This is actually really cool. So Bigelow showed off his B330. Imagine, when you want to go on holiday, you want to go camping, Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to be a little bit comfortable. And you think, right, I'm going to take... I'm going to take my mattress. And then you try and get the mattress in your tiny little car, and you just can't do it, can you? It's just too big.
No way.
So,
possible.
So what's the solution? What's the solution to not being able to get your mattress?
Well, you just take the air out of it.
Or buy yourself an inflatable mattress.
Whoa, there we go.
So that's kind of the idea, isn't it? So what Bigelow does is build space station components, but builds them in such a way that you can inflate them once they get into space. Because you've got this problem that obviously rockets have got limited fairing size, so you can only get certain size structures in them. So for skinny rockets, you stick this inflatable structure in, and when you get it out into space, it can inflate, and that gives you like up to 4 or 5 times the volume that you had before. So this B330...
I'm assuming, Matt, that they've got a machine to inflate it, not going to have to do it by mouth and nearly faint.
No, there's a picture of Tim Peake holding his head when he gets one of those headaches from blowing too hard. When you go really dizzy.
Oh, yeah.
Blowing up
I remember
balloons.
it well.
Or playing blow football.
My dad used to say, right, you're blowing up the balloons. After 20, you're like spinning out.
No, they do have gas canisters on board that do all the inflating. You'll be pleased to hear.
That's good to know.
It's not left to the astronauts. So this B330, and I think the 330 refers to how much volume there is in meters cubed, gives you about half the usable volume of the space station.
That's big, man.
Yeah. They launch on the United Launch Alliance Vulcan, which of course is their new one. It was going to be the Atlas V. But the Vulcan needs the ACES upper stage to do it, and that's not going to be ready till 2024. So a lot of the timelines you see with these Bigelow things just don't stack up against that. But hey, everyone was looking around the Mars transporter version, and there was loads of bits in there that said things like "does not exist." And that's because, of course, when it's on the ground, it doesn't work properly. You have to have like structural support in there because of gravity.
Sure.
So
sure.
It actually looks more cluttered when you see the pictures than it really would be when it got put into space.
Yeah, kind of hard to test.
Yeah, and just so you don't think this is like a sort of silly idea, the beam version of this, an experimental version of Bigelow's expandable habitats is on the International Space Station. And it's been up there for 3 years now. And Tim Peake was up there with it, and there's pictures of Tim Peake in there. So yeah, it's it does exist. And there's on this version, there's 2 toilets apparently, which is new. Because normally,
thank God.
Normally they've only got 1 toilet, and obviously they break quite often. Can you imagine how annoying that is, being in space and not being able to go?
Oh, imagine if you had a dicky belly and you knew someone had been in there for half an hour.
Oof.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
let's hope they've got a bottle of Febreze in there.
They must have. Although imagine how expensive to get that into space. The air freshener.
Although, does stuff... Now, here's a question, Matt. Does stuff smell as smelly in space?
Oof. I daren't think.
There's a question for our listeners.
I'm not sure the International Space Station will smell that great, honestly.
No, I'm sure.
So, have you heard of an astronaut called Michael Gernhardt?
Yes, I remember that name.
Because he's been up on 4 space shuttle flights, STS-69, 83, 94, and STS-104. So he's a proper veteran.
Wow!
And he's been the person that NASA have given the job to check it out for their next step program, which is the next Space Technologies for Exploration Partnership. So that's what he's doing. And basically, that's the whole point of them. Bigelow wants these for NASA to use for things like the Lunar Gateway. At the moment, the Lunar Gateway is a pretty small design.
I know that you like a stat. Would you like a stat?
Yeah, go on then.
So the inflatable structure is made of 30-odd layers, and when it's inflated, it can be stronger than concrete, with better radiation and micrometeorite protection than the ISS modules, according to Bigelow. I mean, that is... A lot of people would be surprised by that, wouldn't they?
Do you know what? I am, because you think, well, why doesn't everyone build it inflatable then? It's funny, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because you think it's where it's all at if you can do it like that. I'm not actually sure what those layers are made for. I'm assuming it's Kevlar or something like that. And then I suppose it is pretty bulletproof, isn't it, Kevlar? But yeah, the fact that it's it's as good or better radiation protection.
In fact, it's literally bulletproof vest material.
Yeah, yeah. That's his job.
Yeah.
So so he's trying to get NASA to use these modules, these inflatable modules, for lots of things. The Lunar Gateway, for anyone traveling to Mars to actually live on the journey to Mars, for example. Although obviously
brilliant.
The one to Mars would have to have even more radiation protection. But
I, for one, can't wait to see these babies in action.
Oh no, absolutely. That'd be absolutely amazing. But there's other competitors. So he's Bigelow. We should explain that Bigelow is, of course, a Las Vegas hotel billionaire. So he's a bit like Musk. Yes. He's come from some other sector with his vast wealth and set up a aerospace company. He also believes in aliens.
Well, it's good to have healthy competition. Musk can't do it all.
No, and so Bigelow's up against Boeing, so they're building a similar sort of thing. Lockheed Martin are building similar sort of things. Orbital ATK are building something based on Cygnus. Sierra Nevada are building similar sort of things, and NanoRacks are building, trying to look at using upper stages of rockets to do that kind of thing. So there's quite a lot of competition, but I like the Bigelow ones. I think it sounds like they're slightly ahead of all that, and it looks
competition is cool. Good, isn't it? Because it means that there's a little bit of a rush to get there, get it right. I'll tell you what we should talk about, Matt, and it's a tale of two stories. India.
Oh, such a sad one, isn't it, really?
They were so close. I mean, incredible. What a feat just to get there.
I know,
but so sad.
It is sad, isn't it? I watched it live, and it was like, oh no, what's going on? It was really weird the YouTube footage of it. But yeah, the Vikram lander that broke off from the Chandrayaan-2, which is still in orbit, so it's not a complete failed mission. We still have a spacecraft that's in lunar orbit, but the Vikram lander itself,
that's right,
unfortunately lost contact a little while up in still something like 2 kilometers off the surface, and then isn't talking anymore, even though it got spotted by the Chandrayaan-2, and they know it landed, and they think it's sort of fairly intact. So it wasn't, maybe
just tilted over.
Yeah, maybe came in a little bit too hard. But it looks like they've given up now. But I think.
But you know what? We've always said, Matt, you learn from these things.
Yeah, but I think NASA's reconnaissance rover is going. The reconnaissance orbiter is going to have a check to see if it can look at the Vikram lander and maybe help ISRO out with information. So it's not over yet.
I wish them all the luck in the world, and I think they can be very proud of themselves.
It's very similar to the situation us Brits were in when Beagle didn't happen at Mars, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
So we feel
and Bereshit.
Yeah, we feel your pain. We feel your pain.
Absolutely do. But we keep going.
We keep going. We should talk about SpaceX and Gwynne Shotwell, because I think I'm amazed at this. So Gwynne Shotwell said that they're going to be launching as many as 24 Starlink missions in 2020. So that so 24 launches of Starlinks. That's a lot of satellites.
Steady on, Shotwell.
So yeah, that's going to mean that there's going to be tons and tons of Starlink satellites up in the up next year, which is pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. We will see how it affects the astronomers, as they were concerned, weren't they?
Well, astronomers were concerned. Operators of other satellites are a little bit concerned. Space debris people are concerned. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? And then we've got OneWeb doing the same thing, and possibly Jeff Bezos doing the same thing. It's going to get crowded. It's going to get crowded up there.
Jeez Louise. I mean, you would have thought there'd be space in space. Turns out not as much as we thought.
No, not at all. Jamie, this has been the hardest podcast to do, hasn't it? It has to be said.
It has been a tough one. But I tell you what, we got through it, and we've got an interview.
We got an interview with Sarwech Shar of Space Bandits, who are out there doing some really cool stuff.
What more do you want?
Space Bandits have got some great online interviews with lots of different sort of new space people. It's really worth checking out their website, and they're really great.
Please go and check them out.
Instagram posts. So I had a chat with Sarwech a few weeks ago, and this is the interview.
Here we go.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
I am joined on the podcast by Sarwech Shar of Space Bandits. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Really honoured to be on here.
So before we go any further, give us a little bit of background about yourself and Space Bandits.
Yeah, sure. So I am a massive space enthusiast. I started a sort of a community called Space Bandits several months ago, and it's just a place for anyone that's excited about space and some of the space startups that are on the scene to find out about what they're up to. I do interviews with some of these companies on the website, as well as have a showcase and updates on some of the most exciting companies. And as well as that, there's an Instagram page that I run where I just share some amazing concepts and ideas that are coming out, obviously from the likes of SpaceX, but also AI Space Factory and Blue Origin and all these other companies. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of my background, I'm actually not, I would say I'm not part of the space sector. I work in a technology startup in London. And the space thing is an interest, a passion, but at the moment it's just a sort of a side project that I do just out of the love for space.
Well, yeah, that's the same as Jamie and I. So I think it's a good place to come from. In some ways, it keeps it nice and much more enthusiastic and less biased as well. It's quite hard, isn't it, if you're working for a company and you've got to sort of stay on. It must be hard if you're to talk about Blue Origin if you're working at SpaceX, for example. But so what got you into space in the first place? What is there a sort of pivotal moment in your life where you can remember going, yes, I've got to get into space?
That's a good question. I think it's definitely been an interest of mine for quite a long time. And growing up, I had a telescope and would kind of look out the moon. The telescope wasn't powerful enough to look at anything further than that, but it had been a sort of an interest. And then it wasn't until just a few years ago when SpaceX were testing out their rocket landings with the Falcon 9 that got me really excited and interested about the possibilities. It just showed the kind of opportunities that could come up in the next few years. And so at that point, I just started reading up about space, about all of the different companies that are involved. Obviously, there's a lot of investment. The sector's kind of booming now. So there's lots going on. And that's just made me really excited about what kind of opportunities might arise in the next few years. And I think, obviously, with space being, it's this kind of thing where people are excited about it when they're little, but then they grow up and they go on to do other things. So with the Space Bandits Instagram page, I wanted to show people that there are lots of different people who are still working in space, working on companies, and even doing sort of like projects on their own, like yourselves, and just trying to show people what's possible. So yeah, it was a passion and interest at first, but more recently it grew into something else.
Yeah, I'm. Do you know what my journey is very similar to that in terms of I've always been an enthusiast, but yeah, those original SpaceX Hopper tests did definitely reignite something. Would you say that? I mean, it's fair to say, isn't it, that Elon Musk's been an incredible force in terms of getting the public interested again. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's amazing what NASA have done, obviously, and some of the other space agencies. But given that there hasn't been too much progress in the last few decades, it's nice to see that someone comes along with genuine mission and seems eager to advance space exploration. So I think when people see that, it's definitely inspiring and just shows that if someone can do that and bring in a whole company behind this mission, then there's lots of little things that some of us can get involved in and take part in.
Yeah, it's quite strange because while I was going back over your website, and you've pieced together a kind of long interview made up of different interviews with Elon Musk, and there's there's a video near the end where he's almost crying because the old space people like Gene Cernan aren't chuffed with what he's doing, and it kind of reminds me of the old Elon Musk, where because recently I can't help feeling he's been it's quite hard to like him, but it's so easy to like him back then, where you actually think he really genuinely has this really enormous passion for the subject and genuinely does want to change the world, and it's really interesting, isn't it, that juxtaposition between him then and him now. Is there any other people that you feel are kind of starting to step in and be inspirational in terms of the things that you see and want to talk about?
Yeah, I think anyone that obviously puts their money where their mouth is and does something about a passion that they've had is inspiring. Like Jeff Bezos is another commonly cited example, and I think he's become more famous most recently with obviously New Glenn and Blue Moon. It's a little less impressive, but I think it's still worth noting because he's putting billions behind it, and he does have a fairly good mission as well, although some people are skeptical. And then other than that, I would say it's hard to say because there are lots of different people who outside of NASA are doing their own things that are going to help advance humanity. And each one of them is important in their own ways. Like some of the interviews I've had actually are with really inspiring people. So one example is Astroscale's founder, and he essentially started a company which is trying to tackle space debris and make sure that we don't lead ourselves into kind of a Kessler syndrome and are locked onto this planet. So that's really cool, and it's protecting our future. And I would say another one is, again, AI Space Factory is working on a massive problem that's probably neglected, simply because we haven't obviously landed humans on Mars yet, but it would help us to think about how to live there inside habitats. There's just so many that it's hard to really say these specific ones. But I would say with Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos are some of the main ones. And I think over the next few years, it's just going to be this thing where lots more people will be jumping in and trying to solve problems and helping this mission of colonizing the moon and Mars happen. It's kind of like the tech scene was in the 1990s with the internet. And as more of that infrastructure is built, as launch costs reduce, as they get more frequent and reliable, we will see more satellite companies coming through. And then to help those satellite companies, we'll see lots of different software companies that will feed off of the data that's coming from the satellites. And then from there, there will be all kinds of possibilities. And that's still just talking about the Earth. When we've eventually moved on to the moon and building moon bases and trying to build an economy there, that's going to spur on something else entirely. So yeah, it's really exciting stuff.
It is, isn't it? There's a little bit of I guess that like you said when you were talking about NASA and actually since doing the podcast, I've got a new love for NASA now. I just the amount of stuff that they do, like their Centennial prizes and all those kind of things in the background that you just take for granted, and there's so much going on, and they're kind of like AI Space Factory that was spurred by the prize that NASA were offering these 3D printing companies. And so it's interesting, isn't it, that all that change has been happening. It's just been sort of slow progress. But I'm kind of waiting for the moment where there's a kind of a visionary in space. I mean, Elon Musk has been, because he was the person that broke that landing with boosters mold, and he's kind of definitely put some impetus. But it's people like after doing this space habitats for a month, people like O'Neill and people like that would, and even people like Arthur C. Clarke, they were kind of super visionaries. And I wonder if we're lacking a visionary like that, someone that sort of shows the direction which we should be going in, rather than just kind of incremental change. Do you think we're just going to have incremental change now, and it's just going to be led by commerce? Or do you think there's still the possibility for someone to sort of enter the fray and mix it up a little bit, I suppose?
Yeah, I definitely think we will have some more visionaries in the future. It's just that the visions we've seen so far, they're extremely advanced, right? Like O'Neill cylinders, if we'd started today, it would take hundreds of years to get to a point where we'd have something like an O'Neill cylinder built in space. And then so these visionaries have done amazing stuff in setting this kind of future. But when this was done, in the 20th century, space hadn't really advanced too much. So in fact, obviously after the Apollo missions, we regressed a little bit, so that there was no way that we would be able to catch up to those visions. So I believe once we've I guess fulfilled a lot of what was set out in these visions, and we've built colonies in our solar system, we will be able to we'll be able to have even more grand visions of what can come next. Like, we've had mentions of exploring other solar systems with the Starshot project, even expanding into other galaxies. But that just seems obviously, it just seems ridiculous if we think about it now. But if we have outposts and colonies throughout the whole solar system, it will be completely feasible to think about that. And then we'd have to come up with something even more ridiculous that would match what we consider now to be, I guess, visions from like Arthur C. Clarke and O'Neill. But yeah, I definitely think we will get there. It's just we've barely made any effort and moved forward with the current visions we have.
Yeah, it's hard as so really, I guess the next step is getting people back on the moon. Is that how you see it, or do you see more of actually commerce in just low Earth orbit, for example?
I think it's going to be a two-pronged approach, I guess. So a lot of these space companies that exist now, the only reason they can survive is either they've had significant funding, which is usually from NASA, or they're able to continue operating with applications based on Earth. So AI Space Factory, for example, they're working on Mars habitats, but that's not going to get them any money until we have a viable way of getting to Mars and seeing if it's possible to build on the planet. So what they're doing for now is building Earth habitats, like Terra, like you mentioned, so that not only are they an exciting place for people to stay, but it helps them generate some revenue and make sure they have a viable business model until we're able to get people on Mars. And then, so we'll have that. But then there are some companies who can only, I guess, they can only operate if they're able to achieve their sole mission, which is like astrobotic, I believe. If they want to make money, they have to deliver payloads to the moon, to the lunar surface. So thankfully, NASA have jumped in and they're providing funding for that, because NASA have plans in the short term, I guess like midterm, in the next 5 years, to get back to the moon. So I think we'll see multiple avenues here. Like, companies will continue to operate in low Earth orbit, serving just the needs of people on Earth, people in business on Earth. But then we'll see some of the bigger projects being funded by NASA largely to get us to the moon. And then I think it's going to be a combined governmental and commercial operation to build a lunar base. And then once we have that, it'll show that it's viable to have an economy on Earth. I think that will spur a lot of innovation and increase the amount of competition, which will reduce prices and get a lot of investment capital introduced, which will be the catalyst that will move us on to the next stage. And that's going to be obviously the fun stuff, the exciting stuff, which is getting to Mars and building a base on Mars.
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty exciting, the building a base on the moon. In fact, the more I think about it, there will be something incredibly exciting about that. If it really happens by 2028, it'll be just absolutely incredible. Is there a kind of, because you've done a lot of these interviews with these space entrepreneurs, essentially, is there a kind of underlying theme that runs through all of them? Is there something that you notice and go, that a kind of archetype, an exemplar of that type of person that runs these type of companies?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. So I think one of the biggest things I've noticed from doing these interviews is that the founders of these companies have big missions, but what they try to do first is they try to de-risk themselves by tackling a very small part of that, and say, for example, it could be like orbit fab. They want to build gas stations in Earth orbit, but in order to do that, there's lots of steps that come first. And the simplest step, I guess, relatively speaking, is to have a fueling port that can be used by other satellites. So that's something that's doable on Earth, and something that they've actually achieved. And they have at least one satellite in orbit that uses that. So then they can move on to the next stage, and that will, I guess, attract attention and help them get funding, rather than just going all out and saying we're going to launch on the next Falcon a bunch of tankers and you can fuel your satellites in space next year. So it's just taking the smallest step possible, validating it, getting some investment, or making sure your business model is viable, and then moving forward to the next step. Whereas before, I think in the past, what burned some companies was just trying to do something too ambitious. And a lot of that was stuff like building a launcher or a rocket company, and realizing like the technical challenges and the business challenges were far too great, and the funding was not available. So now I think the main thing I've noticed is just try to tackle something small. And it doesn't have to be hardware, actually. There's a lot of software companies coming out now which are tapping into the data from satellites and using that to help other businesses. So if you can do that, that's also a way in to I guess, the space sector. And then something else I've noticed, of course, is some of these companies have founders with technical backgrounds, but a few of them don't. Some people had no real background in what they were going to be doing. So Fleet is one example. The founders are building an Internet of Things network in space, but it's not something that they had a background in. They used to help schools launch nanosatellites. So by getting experience from that, they were able to understand how satellites work and how connectivity works and communication systems, and then were able to kind of find their way in and get a bit of validation, which helped them to get funding. So even if you don't have a background, it's possible to take advantage of these opportunities.
That is a really interesting insight, actually, isn't it? That I can completely see that. So I guess that's actually really exciting in the fact that in the last few years we've seen a lot of these companies setting up. So we've got all these small ideas that have been developed. So presumably there is going to be a bit of a gear change when a lot of those companies start to mature and end up doing the things that they actually set out to do, rather than the small steps that going towards it. So presumably there's going to be some like sea change moments when certain technologies become actually available, like like you said, like refueling satellites in space would be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first step is obviously about survival and making sure you have a viable business model. And then when you can achieve that, if you're able to move on to your big mission project, what this usually does is it actually opens up the possibilities for others in the market. So when you get to a certain size, like examples would, I guess outside of space, one example is Facebook. If you get to a certain size, you can actually become a platform for other businesses to operate on. And so that allows lots of smaller groups, potentially even individuals, to say tap into the space network and create something actually that's valuable for businesses or for even consumers. So obviously at this moment, there's a lot of interest in, I suppose, satellites detecting like agricultural yields, and that's usually data that's consumed by large organizations like massive agricultural companies. But as they develop and mature, it opens it up, reduces costs, and that allows smaller businesses or smaller people, smaller groups of people to come in and afford those services. And of course, if they're able to take advantage of those services, it helps them improve their own business and grow as well. So it really does feed downwards. It's just a matter of getting to that point before the company goes bankrupt or some other issue that they face. And this is something that's actually been happening for the last few years, and I think it's ramping up now. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Space Angels. It's run by Chad Anderson. They're doing a lot of exciting research into this, and it's definitely something to watch. And I think as we approach the next few years, as we see some of these lunar companies take off, that's just going to open up even more possibilities. For example, like sponsorship or delivering. Like, I'm seeing companies come up which are saying they will deliver anything you want into space. So, like, if you want a photo, you can get it into space. Like, that's something very niche, but a lot of people might want it, and it's only possible if the costs are coming down, because these companies are getting more mature and able to improve their operations. So yeah, it's going to get better over time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of space technology obviously always boils down to launch, doesn't it? Which is pretty much stayed the same. It's that pesky rocket equation, isn't it? I mean, talking of launch, because you've spoken to quite a few of the sort of small sat launch companies like Skyroar and people like that. Obviously that seems to me like a sort of, I guess it's because it's kind of the glamorous end of the industry. Do you get the feeling that that's becoming one of those oversubscribed places, that there's going to be a lot of people coming into that market and only a few survivors?
I mean, you can say that it seems like there are lots of people coming in because demand hasn't really gone up. So, like, demand is only going to reduce once costs have fallen dramatically. But although costs have come down, again, thanks to SpaceX and Rocket Lab, they haven't really come down significantly enough to open up the market as much as the supply side has gone up. But a lot of the companies that we're seeing actually, like, many of them are actually based in China. So we'll probably see a lot of consolidation there. And the ones that are in Europe, like the ones you mentioned, they serve different segments of the market. So obviously, SpaceX are great because they can handle a lot of the larger payloads. And recently, they have announced the capability to do small sat launches, but it's not going to be so frequent that it will mean no one else can take part. And these other companies offer things like say, if you're based in Europe, if you're a satellite company based in Europe, it's probably better for you if you can find a company that's operating close to where you are. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch, as I'm sure there will be not enough room for all the companies that we're seeing, but there are different kinds of niches and segments that will be served, and I think it will be better served if we do have this kind of competition and variety.
Right. So here's a question for you, because you're very engaged on Instagram with followers of. I mean, you've got a huge following on Instagram in terms of what kind of posts, what kind of things are the general public? What are the people that follow you? What are they into? What are the things that you notice get the best response?
So people really like to see these massive visions that we talked about, like of colonies on Mars, space habitats. They like to see like crazy, huge mega structures. Obviously, rockets. People love to see this feats of engineering. I think people are really impressed by that. Anything that they don't see on a daily basis, it amazes people, I guess. And another thing that I think people really do appreciate is the fragility of this planet. And so things like climate change, things like environmental disasters, that really does affect people. And so people like seeing ideas around how we can improve the Earth, how we can stop things like the Kessler syndrome, and how we can stop like runaway greenhouse effects. So I guess, yeah, it's just the kind of huge grand things that we as a society can collectively come together and do, whether it's getting rockets and launching them to other planets, or building huge structures, or saving this Earth. Like people really like to see things that require collective action. Like one example is I did a post. It's probably the one that has the most engagement. It's just showing future colonies on Mars over different time periods. So it's like 10 years, 100 years. I think it's 50 years, 100 years, and then 1,000 years, and so on. And then it just shows like the progression. And I think people seeing that, obviously, a lot of people think like this is never going to happen. They're very skeptical, or they think the Earth is flat and it's pointless. You do get a lot of crap on Instagram, but for the most part, people are inspired and they think like, this is my lifetime. You know, this is something that I could actually see, and it makes people excited. So yeah, I think it's cool. It's great because it's visual, so you can just show people these amazing concepts, and they really like it. But at the same time, it's also sad because you do come across some people who are not only doubtful, but they're just outright dismissive, and they couldn't care less. But I think it's exciting to care about the future of humanity and where we'll go.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to fall down the trap of reading comments and going and getting upset by them. I just try and remember that it's very likely to be someone that's a bit of a loser anyway. But there is actually one question that often comes up on space tweets and on Instagram and on any of these of the really popular like yours, is this idea of how do you address the one where someone says we should be spending money on Earth and not on silly projects in space? How do you ever attempt to tackle that one, and if so, what's your kind of answer to that?
Yeah, I think people don't really realize that the vast majority of any spending takes place on Earth. So I mean, like, at least 90% or 95% of what we spend as a civilization is spent on Earth. I know some of that can harm the Earth, but there are hundreds of billions, if not trillions, that have been spent on trying to fix the Earth. So actually, I think it's just a matter of miscommunication. And so I try to show people that we are doing a lot already. We are trying to save this Earth, but at the same time, there's lots of opportunity out there. If we just spend small amounts comparative to what we're spending elsewhere, we can advance human civilization. We can find new technologies that will help us save the Earth. For example, in order to, I know this is a far-out concept and quite ahead in the future, but in order to terraform Mars, we will need a lot of the technology we're already using to change this planet. So we could reverse engineer that, and that would help us to I guess, reverse some of the effects that climate change had. As well as that, there's lots of potential for moving industry off Earth, and this is an idea that O'Neill expressed, as well as Jeff Bezos now, and that by doing that alone would massively help the cause. And so I think it's just like, if you show that to people once, they usually understand, but the ones who don't are they're just lost causes. So it's hard to win them over.
Yeah. It's I mean, just from my own personal experience, even if it's someone that you know that you can devote a lot of effort personally with, it's very, very hard to change like ingrained opinions, isn't it? Particularly via just an Instagram post or a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to find different ways of expressing that same sentiment. Really, that the more we know, the more we know, and the more that we can change the world. And spending money on learning new things is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, if I'm lazy, I just respond with, why can't we do both?
Yeah.
But if I want to go into detail, I'll usually say, well, here's this other reason.
Is there any place that you envisage your Space Bandits going in the future? Are you thinking about expanding the project?
So for now, it's there's obviously an Instagram page and the website. On the website, you can find interviews with companies, and there's a new one out roughly every week. I'm trying to increase that. As well as that, there's new startups being added to the startups list almost every day. So that's always something exciting to watch. And then there's also a resources page where you can find books, podcasts, any kind of learning resource to figure out, what kinds of opportunities there are in space, and learn from others, and see if there's potential for, I guess, the general public to get involved. And then in the future, I'll just be looking to expand on that. So lots more interviews, lots more companies, more resources, and then potentially a way to get more of the community involved. So perhaps some kind of discussion forum. I'm sure there are, I personally speak to a few different space founders working on different projects. So I think it helps when you have a community of people that you can go to and talk to about what you're working on, especially when it's still quite niche and the problems you're facing haven't really been solved yet. So there might be a community coming up. Definitely, I guess the best way to keep tabs on that is the website itself.
Well, I know from my own experience, like maintaining that kind of output once a week, interviews and keeping a website going is an extraordinary amount of work. So well done, and it's really, really good. Some of the interviews are absolutely amazing. I'm quite jealous by some of the stuff that you've managed to achieve. It's really, really good.
That's okay. Well, you're more than welcome to come on there and share your story.
Oh, awesome! Well, we'll have to hook that up. What's the web address? What's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so it's spacebandits.io.
Nice and easy. And what's your name on Instagram? Is it just Space Bandits?
Yeah, it's just space.bandits.
Space.bandits.
I had to put a dot in there because the Space Bandits was taken.
What? Yeah, I have to say that it's definitely worth following if you don't follow, because it's some great, really, again, it's just great content, and I know how long that stuff.
Thank you.
I know how long that stuff takes, so it's really brilliant. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
Just thanks so much for having me on. It's obviously a real pleasure. I've been following your podcast for a while, and what you and Jamie are doing is amazing. And I think it's just like we were saying, it's just one of the things that everyday people like us can get involved in and hopefully inspire many others.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I really love it when I hear stories where we get listeners writing in every week, and it's really, really great to hear like stories about like people who've been inspired to do stuff. And I actually know a couple of people who are going to Birmingham University to study space science who've listened to the show, and I think that a small bit of what we've done as enthusiasts has kind of maybe created some of the sort of superstars of the future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely inspiring that people are going to I guess study space in some capacity, and I guess do some formal programs. But even if you don't have a degree in space, or you don't have a background in, say, physics or astronomy or anything like that, you can still do something. Like I graduated with a law degree, and I'm definitely not doing anything related to that. But it doesn't mean that I can't pursue my passion. So, yeah, if anyone's interested or keen, but a little bit doubtful because of their lack of formal education, don't let that stop you.
So have you never been tempted to get into space law? Because that seems to be a really interesting area right now.
Yeah, I mean, I did at some point when I was just shortly after university, but I don't know. I feel like it's still early days now, and there isn't as much demand as there would be in, say, another 10 years. So if you're going to university in 5 to 10 years' time, definitely study space law.
That's a good tip for the top. Thanks very much for coming on and sharing all that. It's ace to speak to another space enthusiast.
Thank you. It's been so fun.
Yeah, and you have been putting the ace back into space. So that's good.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay, right. Thanks very much, and I'll let you get on with your day.
Thank you. Take care.
The Interplanetary Podcast is alive!
Right, there we go, Jamie. Such a lovely chat.
Wow, that's just genius, isn't it?
I haven't actually met him. I've met his brother, but I've never met him. So it'd be good in the next space event that we're up. Hopefully, we'll bump into him and have a little chat.
Well, I hope we do. That was brilliant. And please go and check them out online. It's all excellent stuff. Now, Matt, here's a question for you. If you liked this podcast and you're new, where can you go to get more info?
I think you can go to www.interplanetary.org.uk.
That is a wonderful thing. And I would like to wish you, Matthew, a wonderful time. Have a safe trip in Latvia. And I wish everyone a good weekend.
I am flying back tomorrow, Jamie, and I shall be editing this podcast, and it will be coming out one whole day late, unfortunately. So I must apologise to all the Spodcats out there that they had to wait a day for the podcast. But you can tell why.
Well, if I know our listeners, there will be literally tens of people upset.
Exactly. Thanks again to everyone that's been tweeting and being really nice to us this week. It's always an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, we love you.
We absolutely love you, especially Jelly Sock with the great name.
Oh, she's just great.
Great post. Right.
And if anyone's got any tips of where I should go in Seattle, then let me know.
How long are you there for, James?
Or Vancouver Island, which is where I will be next week.
Oh.
So I've got 3 nights here, and then I'm going to Vancouver Island for a week. So if anyone's got any tips, or if anyone lives there, if you want to join up with a co-host of the Interplanetary Superhighway, let me know. We'll go and get a beer.
Oh, yes. Space related, I hope.
Oh, of course.
Right, Jamie, this has been the 150th episode of the Interplanetary Podcast.
Oh, congratulations, everyone. We got there.
Not bad.
Onwards to 200.
So in 50 episodes' time, we're going to have some kind of spectacular, right, Jamie?
Well, it's got to be done, isn't it, really?
Yeah, big time.
Have a good weekend.
Jamie, have a lovely night.
Yes.
And see if you can...
Oh, thanks, Matt. You have a good one.
And see if you can catch any decent constellations out there.
Oh, well, I've got my binoculars, so let's hope the clouds clear.
Oh, yes. I wish I had my binoculars.
Oh, yeah, big time. Don't leave home without them. Okay, everyone. Have a good weekend. Lots of love. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Spodcats.